How's it going, Jim?
Yeah, I don't have any agendas out.
So we don't print them out anymore.
Yeah.
They just use the tablet out there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
'Safety and Sustainability Commission, 7 p.m. meeting, calling the meeting to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Simpson,
I am here.
Commissioner Bajaj,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Nafisi,
Here.
Commissioner Bealy,
Present.
Commissioner Sal,
Present.
Chairperson Arata.
Present. All right, Commissioner Bealy, would you help us in the salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
D, approve the order of agenda. Anybody want to change the order of agenda or give me a motion to approve the order of agenda?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Blue folder items, additional backup materials, blue folder items, our additional backup material to administrative reports and/or public comments received after the printing and distribution of the agenda packet for receive and file. E1 blue folder. Jesse, we don't have any blue
There's
folder
no blue
items.
folder items for tonight's meeting.
Okay, I'll move on down to F, consent calendar. Business items except those formally noticed for public hearing or discussion are assigned to the consent calendar. The commission members may request that any consent calendar item be removed, discussed, and acted upon separately. Items removed from the consent calendar will be taken up under the excluded consent calendar section below. Those items remaining on the consent calendar will be approved in one motion following oral communications. F1, approve affidavit of posting for the Public Works Safety and Sustainability Commission meeting. F2, approve the Public Works and Sustainability Commission meeting minutes for the October 27, 2025 regular meeting. And F3, receive and file the uniform regulations regarding all commissions and boards and the ordinance pertaining to the Public Works Safety and Sustainability Commission. F4, receive and file update regarding the subcommittee between the City of Redondo Beach and the Redondo Beach Unified School District. Would anybody like to change the order of the consent calendar?
So it would be either a motion to approve the consent calendar, or if you'd like to pull an item, you could.
Anybody would like to pull an item?
Just note that now the Public Works Safety and Sustainability Commission, correct, based upon this motion?
That is correct. Not not because of this motion, but yes, as of this meeting, this is the first meeting that you are now the Public Works Safety and Sustainability Commission.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Was that second by, I heard simultaneous.
He's going to take the honor.
Okay. We could do a roll call vote. Commissioner Simpson?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nafisi?
Aye.
Commissioner Beely?
Aye.
Commissioner Sal?
Aye.
Chair Arata?
Aye. Excluded consent calendar, or do we need any public comment?
We should have taken public comment for
Yeah.
consent calendar, so I think we can
I'll unapprove it.
ask for,
Yeah, we'll unapprove it and ask for public comment, please.
I think we can retroactively ask for public comment if there's any on the consent calendar. And for the record, there is no e-comments or any hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second with the first motion accepted. Moving on to excluded consent calendar items.
There's none.
H, public participation on non-agenda items. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on this agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. Do we have any public?
Do have one card.
Okay.
Jim Mueller.
Good evening, Commission. The city is trying to develop Artesia Boulevard into a more lively and revenue-rich commercial district. To do that requires more pedestrians having a safe and pleasant experience on the sidewalks and public spaces. Pardon me. When the thousands of consumers who live around Artesia get in their cars, they don't tend to buy local. They head out of town to another city's shopping center where they and their families feel comfortable and safe. Artesia Boulevard businesses need those customers to buy closer to home, to feel safe and comfortable on foot on the sidewalk. Right now, people don't like to walk on Artesia because they're too near a large volume of fast-moving cars, 3 times more than the Riviera, and the noise generated by that traffic contributes to an unpleasant experience. A crucial step to encourage more people on foot on Artesia must be to calm the traffic. First, I suggest reducing the speed limit from 35 to 30 or even 25. Make the boulevard a business zone with signage encouraging slower speeds and look out for pedestrians. Second, employ some of the techniques for traffic calming the city uses for residential streets. Help for this can come from the proposed art plan for Artesia, which includes installation of crosswalks, 4 altogether. Install all of them in the first phase of the contract in 2026. They're paid for. Third, finally, the ACAP Artesia improvements. The bulb outs and other pedestrian aids specified to provide pedestrian buffer zones in community space. Fourth, work with Planning Commission to ensure new buildings or renovations use setbacks in a way that expands the pedestrian space. Beginning this calming effort now, before the new farmers market starts up, will help ensure safety of pedestrian traffic headed to that venue, because it's likely hours are also busy traffic times on Artesia. Public Works efforts will help maximize the potential of Artesia Boulevard, a vital commercial area for the future of Redondo Beach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Georgette Gantner, District 2. I would like to further the comments that Jim just made regarding Artesia. In light of the fact that $450,000 right now seed money has been provided and will be provided, including the hiring of a consultant that is, I think they're tomorrow night giving a presentation to City Council. I would also like to add the following to help to make the area more beautiful and to encourage business. And if there's any way that the city and or your commission or planning commission could encourage people who have property that's not being used or is vacated, that there's like, for instance, a preschool that hasn't been used maybe in a decade. It sits and sits. If those properties can be given up, if the city can incentivize those owners to sell or move or rent or improve, that would improve the area greatly. And the thing that I have, this is maybe not practical, but I'm going to share it anyway, who knows, is some of those properties that vacated possibly could be made into little parkettes. And maybe each one could have a variety of uses. Maybe one could be for pickleball, or there's a basketball court, something that would, or a kid's playground, something that would encourage people for healthy activity. And it would also improve the setback because it would be a park. So people would be further away from the street and therefore safer. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else for public participation? Any?
There's no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. Moving on to I, items continued from previous agendas.
There is none.
Items J, items for discussion prior to action. All right, let's get into J1, discussion of commercial driveway widths.
Good evening, Commission. Ryan Liu, City Traffic Engineer. I'd like to, this is a joint item with Planning Division and the Community Development Department. I'd like to introduce Sean Scully, our Planning Manager, who will kick us off on this discussion.
All right, thank you, Ryan. And to continue the theme, this is all about Artesia and aviation corridors. So I'm going to provide some of the background how we got here. It's nice to see some of the architects and authors of what's called the ACAP, the Artesian Aviation Corridors Area Plan, that was kicked from the City Council in about 2017 or 18 to the General Plan Advisory Committee. And 3 General Plan Advisory Committee members are on this commission. And so they know exactly what I'm talking about. And we just heard it from the speakers as well. Revitalization of Artesia Boulevard and Aviation Boulevard has been on the city's radar for decades. So the ACAP came together, was directed from council. GPAC kind of dug in. We had consultants on board. We did a number of studies, a parking utilization study, market feasibility study, development feasibility study, and ACAP eventually got approved as the revitalization strategy document for Artesian aviation. So there's a number of measures in that document, strategies, economic development, public works projects that are laid out in that document. And a lot of them have to do with that, what we heard earlier about the pedestrian orientation, trying to create the energy, the economic driver that North Redondo Beach is looking for. The corridors themselves, as you all probably are aware, they're commuter oriented, essentially. What the ACAP does is tries to invert that from commuter oriented to adjacent neighborhood orientation. So that pedestrian effort and pedestrian oriented development is really what we think is going to help turn it over. The other issue, and it kind of speaks to some of the comments we heard, is the development, what's going to incentivize the development community, and it's the intensification of allowed development. And some of those items are going before the council this very next month, increasing the floor area ratio, increasing the allowable height, numbers of stories, and as a matter of fact, reducing and actually, in this case, eliminating the parking requirement. So we still think the development community is going to want parking, but it's per the new ordinance, it's supposed to be provided to the rear of the development. And if they do want it in front of, it's got to go to our city engineer and Ryan. for review to see if there's some potential to allow, along with the community development director, to administratively determine if we're going to allow that parking. The piece of the puzzle that we're bringing before this body tonight is the driveway widths. Now, we don't want to have driveways running through your pedestrian corridors, but we know the way that development is set up there, there's going to be driveways. Right now, the standard is for one way, it's a 14-foot driveway width minimum, and for two-way, it's 30 feet. So that's just what Planning Commission recommended, 15 feet for two-way, and council has asked that we bring this to you to get your recommendation on what would be the appropriate driveway width, much narrower than what we have now. So that's kind of the story of how we got here tonight. Ryan's done a lot of research with about other jurisdictions and can go over kind of the nuts and bolts that staff is going to recommend.
Thank you, Sean. So as Sean mentioned, our current driveway minimums for commercial development are codified in the Municipal Code 10-2.1706. They mandate that one-way driveway, so a single direction driveway, has to be at least 14 feet minimum, and a two-way driveway needs to be at least 30 feet wide. So these have been pretty prescriptive and rigid throughout the history of the city. We've had a little bit of a working group between community development and public works to look at other cities and best practices, and in light of the modernization and enhancing pedestrian environments on artesian aviation. So what we're proposing here is a baseline standard of a 12-foot minimum width for a one-way driveway, a 20-foot minimum for a two-way driveway, and a 24-foot maximum for a two-way driveway. Another key component that we want to add into that staff is thinking would be a good idea to add to the municipal code is administrative flexibility on a case-by-case basis per the city engineer's judgment. These can be based on objective factors like the number of spaces that they're actually being proposed in light of the shape of the lot, safety and sight distance, how that proposed driveway interfaces with the public right-of-way and other uses, horizontal and vertical slopes as it interfaces with the street, and the exact use that's being proposed on the site. For example, if there was ever a supermarket that needed to be developed that had a large loading dock, they may require a wider driveway, whereas a use that's proposing maybe just a handful of parking spaces could get away with a much narrower driveway. This slide shows of a few cities in our region that have similarly constrained urban environments or are trying to enhance their pedestrian environments as well. Culver City, Torrance, and Santa Monica. They all have varying standards for driveway widths in commercial areas, but we want to note that each of these cities has a maximum width for driveways, for commercial driveways, and a clause for the city, their equivalent of a city engineer, to provide administrative flexibility on a case-by-case basis. So our recommendation that for discussion at this commission is for the city council, in consultation with the city attorney's office, to update commercial driveway standards in the municipal code to the measurements as just stated, with administrative flexibility on a case-by-case basis. So happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any public comment?
I do have one card.
Okay.
Teresa Mitchell.
Thank you, everybody, and especially thank you to Sean and Ryan, because we brought this up with the parking reform, and it's really great to see it come in so fast, because I know these things take a long time and a lot of work. I really appreciate the look at this, because I think the driveways are the highest impact with pedestrians. When you're in a crosswalk, you expect a car. When you're walking on a sidewalk, you don't. But it also, the driveways constrain, especially if we want to put the parking in the back for the ACAP or in any other commercial area. The width of the driveway, that's the most valuable land on a parcel. So it's where the retail shops are, so you get the highest rent and you also get the highest tax revenue. So I think it's the smaller that we can reduce those driveways or allow a smaller minimum from the 14 feet, excuse me, I'm losing my voice today, then I think the more incentivizing we are to new development coming in and rehabbing any of our commercial areas that specifically Artesian Aviation Corridor. I think the maximum is fantastic. I would suggest maybe reducing the minimum farther to 10 foot. We have driving lanes that are 10 foot. We also have parking stalls that are 8 to 9 feet that people drive in from the street and they pull straight into that parking stall. I know Hermosa has a 9-foot minimum driveway, and LADOT has a 10-foot minimum and a 12-foot maximum for single-lane driveways. And then the third thing, there's a couple other things that I would recommend maybe potentially including is limiting the number of driveways. So the Carl's Jr. that's on on Artesia has 3 driveways coming in, 1 from the side and 2 in the front, which seems a bit excessive when you start taking up a whole block with multiple driveways. Maybe preference to driveways that are on a corner from the side street instead of onto the main street. And then also minimum space between the driveways of 20 foot so that you have more on-street parking. So if you have a driveway and then you have a 8-foot space and then another driveway, you're basically eliminating 30 feet of on-street parking. But those are my recommendations if you have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, welcome, come on up.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin DeFrance. The only issue I have, I don't know much about this, I'm still learning, but in terms of for your driveways, your proposal of reducing driveway space, the only issue I necessarily see with it is if we take Hawthorne Boulevard right here in Torrance, where we have the Ross, the Planet Fitness, the In-N-Out Burgers, those driveways are pretty narrow when you're driving within. And one issue that I constantly run into all the time is when you have a bigger vehicle like an SUV and you're trying to make a right turn or a left turn, especially making a right turn, and you have oncoming traffic, you're always crossing over the lines because it's not enough turn space. So if you're building a new development and you're reducing the space, a lot of people have a hard time driving in general. So now you're reducing the driveway space, especially if they're coming on this, coming from the street at a speed. They may not have been anticipating the fact of someone is coming through, and so they make wide turns. And then what you find, even with buses sometimes, is the vehicles start slowing down, and now people are trying to go in reverse to get inside, and it creates more traffic. What the lady mentioned about, what she mentioned about Carl's Jr. on Artesia, I know exactly what she's talking about. I know hypothetically for emergency purposes, you're supposed to have at least 2 points of egress. So you have one side that's on the residential where you could come into the parking lot. Then you have one side on Artesia. Then if you go over to the UPS store right there, you have exits where vehicles could come in and come out. And ideally, you're supposed to have those different points just for emergency purposes in case something happens. I guess to kind of sum it up, I agree with what you guys want in terms of reducing the space. But because vehicles are getting bigger, you now have vehicles like Cybertrucks that's legally allowed on the roads. I don't think reducing the driveway size is probably the best thing to do. It's going to create a lot of issues in the future if it is reduced. Sorry.
Thank you. You still have 47 seconds. Thank you. Any other public comment on the discussion of the commercial driveway widths? Welcome up.
Hello again. Yeah, I'd like to speak about this because I think I heard Sean say that they're encouraging the parking coming from the back of the property. And so therefore, if you want to allow truck access or a lot of wide vehicle access, put it in the back, but in the front, have the narrow driveway access. That way you'd have the 2 points of egress and ingress. My suggestion.
Thank you. Do we have any other?
There is
comment?
Hands raised on Zoom, and there are no e-comments.
Okay. Commissioner Bajaj?
Thank you for the presentation. You know, it's an interesting topic. I mean, I see the benefits from a pedestrian point of view, you know, as you're walking, to have the reduced width of a driveway to reduce the exposure of cars coming in and out. But like this gentleman said, and that was one of the thoughts that crossed my mind as well, is narrowing it too much, you know, especially on a street like Aviation, where, you know, we have a little bit of a higher speed limit. What's the speed limit there, if you can recall?
35.
35. And with the cars traveling, that, you know, the narrower the driveway, theoretically, then the slower a car can slow down and make that right turn in there. And, you know, with the other cities, were you just pulling this information off of their website, or did you actually have a discussion about how they arrived at some of these numbers?
No, this was just based on their municipal code.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really have a question. It was just a comment, I guess.
We know that there's a premium on parking spots. Like we've always talked about parking spots, and people, you know, everyone from residences to commercial tenants, I mean, talking about, is this one of the motivations is to eventually try to increase parking spots? On-street parking in Aviation?
That could be a side effect of narrowing the driveway standards, is that in some cases it could buy back a parking spot or two if we get a few feet back. Yeah, that is a possibility. But you know, not just for the street parking, but also for a tree or a parkway space, because that space cannot be used for such features right now.
Commissioner Anderson?
I'm not super clear in the request. Is this for the corridor or is this for a citywide?
Citywide.
Okay. One of my main questions is why is the city limiting? I know they said there's opportunities to on a case-by-case basis, but why not put it 20 to 30 feet for maximum? Kind of keep it in line with a lot of the other cities, LA County, City of LA, and then work that discretion on a case-by-case basis within that width on the minimum and the maximum side for one-way and two-way.
Yeah, I think what we proposed here was just sort of a baseline, you know, it's a suggested minimum. So, you know, the reason why we proposed 12 foot for a minimum on a one-way is so that as a car is turning, yes, it's true, parking spaces and lanes can be down to 8, 9, or 10 feet. But when the car is actually making that turn, they're not in a straight line, they're in an angle. So that's why we propose a 12-foot minimum. There could be cases where I think when an applicant comes before us, they can show a turning radius based on the intensity of the use that they're proposing. Say they're proposing a type of retail store that's only going to attract passenger vehicles. Maybe they can get away with a 10-foot wide one-way driveway if they're only proposing a handful of parking spots on the site that's, you know, going to be a low volume driveway. Maybe we can get away with a narrower driveway in that case. So the 12-foot represents sort of a suggested minimum standard, and it can go up or down, you know, based on what the actual situation is. We do have some pretty narrow lots, you know, so there are some corner lots that have opportunities for driveways to go on side streets or on the main street, but we also have lots that are just so narrow that that they can only afford to place one single narrow driveway at the front of their lot. And so what we're proposing here is just, you know, these are sort of general standards with, you know, good latitude to modify.
So it says here to require 12-foot minimum one-way driveways. So should it be updated to a suggested 12-foot minimum one-way driveway?
Yeah, that can be the language that's in there. And I think we can model that off the other cities that do specify that there's administrative flexibility in all these cases.
Do you require turn truck templates or turn templates in a lot of these cases?
I think that will be part of the requirements when they try to justify a different width that's, you know, different from 12 or different from 20 to 24. We would want to see those design vehicle turning templates.
Yeah, the one reason I was thinking is like, what if they've got loading trucks, right? For example, that have to go in
Exactly.
the back or something like that, yeah.
Exactly. So if they're proposing a store that's expected to receive, like a WB67 tractor trailer truck of some kind, when they're making that turn and they're angled across the sidewalk, then that's when they may be justified to have an extra wide driveway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for shortening it out, providing more parkway elements and opportunities. I think that's great. There was a good point brought up, of course, that might bring some issues with circulation from time to time too. So always something to take into consideration.
Yeah, and we'll also be thinking about the number of actual spaces proposed on the site. That's usually an indicator of the level of activity that's expected. So if the volumes are low, the chances are pretty low that someone is turning in and out at the same time. And it seems like, I think based on the city council's direction and within the ACAP, that there is a general desire to slow speeds down on major streets, and having more appropriately sized driveways where people are not rushing in and out at speed is probably the desired goal as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
May I ask a question, Ryan? What would be the effect if we just kept it at 14 and 30, and then the language would be with administrative discretion for exceptions in a case-by-case basis?
Probably not a big difference, but that might be the starting place in which a developer comes to us with, and so it might be another couple design iterations when we tell them, well, actually we thought 12 or 10 could be better. So we wanted to bring those numbers down at least closer to what other cities are suggesting, but and also providing that flexibility. I think where the numbers stand right now with the 14 and the 30 are pretty far outside of what other cities are mandating. For example, our minimum 30 feet is close to the maximum for other cities.
Are we seeing elevated pushback from developers on this particular issue?
In some ways, yes. I think there are a couple projects that I've processed where the lot is only 30 to 40 feet wide, and they're mandated to provide a 30-foot wide driveway, which is essentially their entire frontage. And it has created some challenges for them trying to site both the drive aisle, the driveway, and the required parking spaces. It results in them having to add parking lifts to their site because the lot was just so narrow.
Commissioner Josh?
So this should be this is really a business-friendly change, something that could be more attractive to developers, and then providing this, it also provides the city with leeway for these unique cases to still have the increase, but it really does seem like it's got pedestrian safety benefits and a little bit more business-friendly. So I think that's a step in the right direction that the city's going with this.
Do you see this as an implementation, Ryan, for new developers moving forward, or is this something that the city wants to be able to initiate any infrastructure changes?
This would go into our development standards that the development community would follow.
Okay.
So this is for private driveways.
Moving forward, okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Afisi?
Quick question for Ryan. You said that you did some digging into other cities regarding the widths of other cities. So can you share what other cities comparable to ours, what maybe the minimum and the maximum are, just for context?
Yeah, so right here I'm showing on the slide here is that Santa Monica has a 12-foot minimum for one-way and a 20-foot for a two-way, and then they have a cap of 35 feet. That's their maximum. And then they still have exceptions based on actual uses. Torrance has a 30-foot maximum across the board, no minimums. Mm-hmm. And Culver City's driveway widths are actually based on the number of spaces that are proposed on site. So it can, even a lot that has 20 spaces or less can be 10 feet wide for two-way traffic. We could see ourselves allowing a case like that on a case-by-case basis. We're not comfortable providing that as our standard, but we can see situations where that might be a feasible option. Say a site is only proposing ADA parking on site or something like that.
And do we currently have a minimum, or we're just trying to start a minimum? Or?
Our current minimum is 14 for
okay.
one-way and 30 for two-way.
Okay. Did this request come to the city from a developer, or did it come from city council, or how did this end up on our agenda tonight?
Yeah, from city council, and it's part of the overall effort to look at our development standards, try to incentivize development, make our standards more flexible, but not going too far, of course, for safety issues, and then not also radically altering the neighborhood surrounding it. So trying to find that right size of all of our development standards.
Thank you.
Commissioner Simpson?
No,
Commissioner Rajaj?
Yeah, I mean, without any strong objection to what staff has proposed, I would be inclined to make a motion to move this item forward based on staff recommendations. Are we being asked to approve this or just?
Recommendation for the city council to adopt this in our
Got it.
municipal code.
Yeah.
Commissioner Anderson, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think it's great to give more flexibility. I would make one modification to that motion in lieu of require to make suggested as the word in the recommendation. But otherwise, I think it's great.
Commissioner Bailey?
Ryan, with this, are we looking to add more street parking in order to keep the pedestrians on Artesia, for instance, in order to help with traffic calming?
I think there's a possibility that some street parking could be preserved or gained when narrowing driveways. It's really on a case-by-case basis. There's a lot of factors such as existing streetlights, fire hydrants, proximity to intersections. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis, but little steps like this will sort of be another small tool in the toolbox to, I think the city's goal has been to preserve, the street parking and find the most efficient use possible.
And may I ask one more time? I'm just, so if we went with let's say 14 and 30, and then everything was at administrative discretion for exceptions on a case-by-case basis, wouldn't that down the road be easier than making it 12 and 24?
So are you suggesting no change to?
Yeah, but to include in the recommendation, just that it, do we have that in the language right now as it's written? The driveways with administrative discretion for exceptions on a case-by-case basis, is that already in the language?
No, our current municipal code doesn't have any exceptions for flexibility.
Because
Yeah,
my thoughts are that it's super busy, that street, and making them smaller. I'm thinking about what the public said. I mean, I did a turn and got rear-ended going into one of the businesses. It wasn't there, but did you do any engineering studies on reducing these driveways and the effect it would have on the traffic?
That's probably something that's pretty difficult to study, I think, to look at the specific, speeds and turning. That's why we wanted to model ourselves after other cities that, have a track record of and consistency of these types of driveway regulations. I think what we're proposing here is reasonable and not extreme. It's in line with the other jurisdictions, but also still wanting that flexibility. The 30-foot minimum that we're requiring right now is actually close to the maximum allowed for other cities. So we're bringing our maximum down a little bit closer to other cities, and our minimums down to, say, Santa Monica.
For clarification, so there was a motion by Commissioner Bajaj. Commissioner Anderson didn't second it, but offered a friendly amendment. Was that kind of?
That is correct, an amendment to Bajaj's motion.
Did Commissioner Bajaj accept the friendly amendment?
I would, I think changing the wording from required to suggest, I would think that maybe staff, or I don't know if you would want to consult with your city attorney to see what, if any, changes or implications that might have on, how the developers interact with the city. So I don't know if I would support dictating that change, but I would ask staff to look at the possibility to change it.
Yeah, that's something we, if this gets recommended tonight, when we consult with the city attorney and get the exact language for this, we can determine that, but maybe Andy has a better idea.
If the intention is to have something more standardized and just engage in the least amount of discussion requires good, because the second part of the statement already allows the flexibility built in there, but at least required, I think. Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Andy Wingy, Public Works Department, for the record. Just big picture context here. When developers come in with their plans and intentions, they don't always develop in a way that the city thinks is valuable to the entire corridor. And so we're trying to find standards here to force them into this box that we're trying to get them into, with notable exceptions, having the flexibility to not make it a no-win game for them. So I think we're trying to create, and that's the direction from the Planning Commission, the ACAP, and the council is, could we consider these smaller driveway maximums to increase the usability of the sidewalk, the pedestrian friendliness of the sidewalk? So I think that's what's before you tonight. Is the question is, does this body agree that that's a good idea? And if so, what are the right numbers? I think for instance, changing the word suggesting a 12-foot minimum, that doesn't, for a developer, that's a get out of jail free card right there.
100%.
So I think we want to keep strong language in there, but give discretion, not in the language, but discretion in the city engineer to say, that's not an appropriate width for this particular driveway because they're bringing in big trucks or something else. So I think if you keep that in mind as you kind of deliberate on this, that's probably the direction the council is asking, or the input the council is asking from you guys is, what is this? We're trying to move in this direction. What is this? How does this feel to you as a public works related entity? Does this make sense to you? Rather than, should we just keep it open? Yeah. As an engineer, we like to keep our options open, right? To do whatever seems fit. I think that's what we're trying to do here with the languages. Let's try and push the developers into this smaller driveway model so we can increase the usage of the sidewalks for other things, but still giving our city engineer, working of course with the community development department, discretion to allow changes to the code as written when appropriate. So, yeah, thank you.
What is the language in the current code right now, exactly? Show one more time.
14-foot minimum for one-way, 30-foot minimum for two-way.
And it doesn't have that exception in it right now, is it? So if somebody wanted, let's say we kept it at 14 and 30, and somebody wanted to do 12, would that be the exception?
That would be, they would be asking for exception and we would not be able to grant it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Commissioner Bailey.
As someone who owns a larger vehicle, I have a F-350 crew cab long bed, and it's not so much as this narrow driveways for me. It's when we have somebody parked right up against it on the street, on the apron, that it makes it difficult to make that turn because, you don't want to do a 3-point turn trying to get out of a driveway. I'm not knocking a narrow driveway. I'm just saying with parking nearby, so there's an apron, so some of the larger vehicles can actually make that right or left-hand turn, as it were. Just something for the city to take under consideration. Again, I'm not against the narrow driveways. I understand them. As far as the building goes and how many parking stalls are available, and I totally agree, you don't need a 15-foot wide parking or a driveway if you only have 4 spots in the back, where a 10-foot or 11 might be more than enough. It's for making those right-hand turns and stuff, and it can be quite difficult if there's a vehicle there who just snuck in and decided to park there for however long. Anyhow, that's my 2 cents. It's not so much as the narrow driveway as it is the turning radius from when you're trying to escape.
Or get in. Commissioner PC?
quick question regarding your case-by-case basis, because it's not very defined, right? So a developer can come in and say, hey, I want to make this case for a more narrow driveway. I assume that will happen because you haven't clearly defined what a case-by-case basis is, right? So anyone can actually make that case. Furthermore, I also agree with Commissioner Bajaj when you remove that word, I just forgot the word too. Required versus suggested, it implies something else, right? Required means you need to have it. It needs to be this, right? You're clearly defining to the project developer that it needs to be this, this way. Suggested means just suggested, I'm going to suggest this. If you want to present something else that legally we'd probably have to entertain it because we just suggested it, and that's problematic for me. And if the whole point of us discussing guidelines is to provide them guidelines, we should give them guidelines. I'm not supportive of the 12 feet. I mean, it's been 14 feet all these years. I agree, cars are getting larger. Most people feels like most people drive SUVs. It's too narrow. And so I have a lot of issues with the fact that we're reducing that at the behest of project developers and maybe not residents. But I do want to empower the commission. I do want to empower city staff to also think about the people that live here and, utilize these businesses as we're the ones entering and exiting. Project developers are fantastic, and I'm happy they're coming to Artesia to redevelop here, and I want them to, be here. But at the same time, we're the ones living here, and we're the ones that are going to be encompassing these very narrow driveways. So for that reason, I'm voting a no.
Yeah, I have similar concerns too. I don't understand how the driveway widths can enhance pedestrian use of a sidewalk. I mean, I think, I don't necessarily see how that enhances an experience for a pedestrian. And for what I know of this was originally brought about by staff's recommendation for eliminating parking requirements, right? In non-residential areas, and then the planning commission.
The city council's.
Yeah. That was a council determination on the elimination of parking.
Elimination of parking, okay. And then the planning commission recommended the widths, the reduction in driveway widths.
Correct.
Okay. And then it was brought back to city council for them to deliberate, and they thought.
And to ask us.
And then they said.
And then they kicked it to us.
Bring it to this commission, and let's hear what the public safety or Public Works and Safety and Sustainability Commission has to say about this.
So they were both inclined towards moving in the direction in favor of the width reduction.
Yes.
Okay.
Interpreted, maybe. Maybe. I have a question, so I'm going to ask a question again. I'm so sorry. Are you able to keep it like 14 and 30? And then make it, if it's case-by-case basis per the city engineer, and then they want to go smaller, have it where they can work with that. Keep it existing 1430. And if somebody, case-by-case basis, wants to go smaller to 14 or 24, then you can approve that. I don't know what anybody thinks about that.
It certainly could be that as a recommendation of this body. I can tell you, though, however, that's inconsistent with the pedestrian orientation we're trying to get to, and to address the Commissioner Sao, am I pronouncing that right? How does that make it more pedestrian friendly? Well, again, what you're doing is you're taking your frontage and your sidewalk, which is our pedestrian environment, and we're just increasing the area by minimizing. Right now, you've got a 30-foot minimum driveway. If we can get that down to 20 feet, that's 10 additional feet of space that could be accommodated for, outdoor seating, et cetera.
And I think from a traffic safety point of view, the wider the driveway, the faster the turns are, the more exposure that a pedestrian has within that driveway. So this picture here actually on the screen shows probably one of the more extreme examples where most of this frontage is driveway, and it's generally not considered pedestrian friendly because cars could be coming in and out in any direction. And so where we can limit that width, that's when we can focus that driver and pedestrian conflict to a smaller space, force a slower turn. I think one of the commenters talked about Hawthorne Boulevard, and I don't think anyone considers that to be a pedestrian-friendly environment. They actually have cutouts sort of deceleration cutouts so that drivers can enter driveways at a much faster speed. So it's little design standards like that that constitute what's considered a pedestrian-friendly environment or not. So the task that we were tasked with was to see how we can make the environment more pedestrian-friendly, and the driveway widths are part of that discussion.
So Ryan, with your cursor, you had your cursor on there, right? Would you be able to like show with that driveway the way it is, like what you thought you would do with that driveway? That how it would increase the
Not much you can
pedestrian?
do. That's a dangerous driveway. That's a dangerous
So
lot.
like, just the one that you showed here, if that was to be modified.
Well, I think if we had an application that came in, to redevelop this strip mall, and they propose one driveway, with maybe, say, only 8 spaces in the back, something like that, because they're not required to provide on-site parking. We would see what the types of uses they're proposing. Maybe it's an office space, and the people who are parking in the back aren't going to be coming in and out all day. So perhaps we could entertain a two-way driveway that's actually narrower than 20 feet or closer to 20 feet, since we know that type of driveway is not going to see a lot of intensive use. If the proposed use is something like a liquor store that might get truck traffic and high in and out driveways, driveway volumes, then that's when we might want to mandate and stick to our 20 to 24 foot 20 foot minimum, 24 maximum, or even larger than that based on the type of truck that they might receive, so that we can appropriately size the driveway to the actual needs of the site. But I don't think we're in the interest of approving, a site with that's mostly driveway at this point. So for example, if these two driveways got consolidated to a single driveway, we will most certainly buy back some space for on-street parking, a tree perhaps, or some planting as well.
Because I'm thinking about when you said liquor store, I was thinking about the corner, like there's the Beach Cities on Torrance Boulevard, and it's got the burger place and the nail salon and then the liquor store. And I feel like when you pull in there, sometimes it's really tight right there. And if that's 14 and 30 already, I can't imagine it going down any smaller to 12 and 24.
Yeah, I don't know the exact width of those specific driveways. The example that you're referring to, but the widths that we're proposing here are in line with other cities.
Commissioner Nafisi.
Do you guys, when someone's building a home and someone wants to reduce their driveway, do you guys have a case-by-case basis in which you allow them to reduce their driveway?
No, we don't. We've got a set standard, single-family residential, 11 feet, 9 feet, and then multifamily 11 feet. Those are standard development standards.
So help me understand why the leeway is happening here.
Well, I think the standard, this is part of many new standards, particularly for artesian aviation corridor. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to build in flexibility, but minimums. We're trying to, as Andy had alluded to, we're trying to drive the development in a certain direction in order to achieve that revitalization that the city's looking for. So it's kind of a push and pull of standards.
I think one big difference, say residential, is that the types of traffic and the patterns of traffic from residential is more consistent between each other. Residents are residents, whereas for commercial development, it could be a nail salon, a liquor store, a preschool, a fast food restaurant, and they might receive different types of employees and freight trips. And so the needs for commercial businesses are more diverse, certainly, than typical residential driveway, commute trips, school trips of the like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what you're describing,
it's a lot more dynamic.
It's actually every reason why I think it needs to be wider, but I don't know, maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly are cases where it could be narrower, such as, as I mentioned, an office building that they're only proposing less than 10 spaces for their employees, and the employees are coming in once and leaving once, and it's not expected that visitors or freight will be servicing that driveway. Then because it's predicted to be a low-volume driveway, we can probably get away with a narrower driveway because we're not expected to see two-way traffic in that space if it's like an office building.
And then can you talk me through like how someone could appeal this, you know, it's a case-by-case basis? How would it, like, what are some of the reasons that you guys would consider looking, you know, not following these guidelines?
Yeah, so if there's a site that's large enough to support a grocery store that's getting a very, you know, large nationally branded truck, then that would be an exception to allow for a wide turning space so that that loading happens on site and not in the street.
And so if I'm a developer and I don't see that, I'm just going to appeal it, right? And I feel like there's some obligation on the city to honor that because you said you would entertain it a case-by-case basis, right? So is there any way that you guys could clearly define a little bit more what the case-by-cases might be? Like, we will entertain, maybe I'm going to paraphrase, I'm obviously not of your nature, you know, we will entertain an exception under these rules.
Yeah, and I think that'll be language that we can massage with the city attorney if that's the direction that we go in. For example, here in Santa Monica, you know, it cannot exceed this wish unless, in their opinion, a wider driveway is required by the nature of the business operate on the abutting property. So that's one way another city's code is written for that type of exception. And in Culver City, provided, however, that the city engineer at their discretion may approve exceptions. So they didn't define those in their city. But I think we would work with the city attorney's office to come up with those types of exceptions. As we listed here, these types of factors, I think we will try to incorporate some of those in.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Anderson?
I think in line with Commissioner Nafisi's comments, that's why I was looking at the suggested for a little bit there because of those lines. I guess I'm going to go back to the Public Works Director, and in the spirit of this, it's much more in line with the general spirit of what these recommendations are, and then getting to the actual legal language, right? That's not an exercise for today necessarily, right? And also what specific those exceptions would be and how that would break down. I think that's an exercise for another day, correct?
I think it will be the activity of the planning staff working with the city attorney's office to come up with language, hearing input from the planning commission, from the city council, from this commission, to craft language that follows the direction and the input that they've been given, and ultimately will pass muster as an ordinance. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of valuable time to be spent getting into the minutia of the language tonight, but certainly the general support or disagreement with the concepts presented is probably where your time is most valuably spent tonight.
Keep it simple. Yeah.
Commissioner Sau, I think that you were thinking about when they came and they were talking about the restaurants and revitalizing Artesia, when they were talking about redoing the parking. Is that the conversation that you were thinking about that came from the city council and then came to us when they were talking about redoing it about maybe, I think about a year ago? Is that what you were referring to?
No.
Like where it started?
No, because in the administrative report, it talked about planning, working with city council to come up with this and kick this over to us.
What was your question prior to that? You were saying like, where did it originate?
Where did it originate?
Yeah. Or was that Commissioner PC? Where did it originate, like the concept?
Yeah, I asked and they said city council, someone on city council had brought this up. It seems really random. They just brought it up. I'm sure that there was a request of someone, to be quite frank with you.
Do you all remember when they were talking about the revitalization at the meeting when they came and we're talking about the restaurants and the parking? Does anybody remember that when they came? No? Okay.
So I see the intention, right? The intention is maybe to have numbers that might be more attractive to developers coming into the city, right? And that could just be optics, right? You know, like just being a more inviting city to bring some revitalization here. I hearing everyone's concerns, you know, about reducing the minimums. I think everyone's got some very valid points. But it does, can we all agree that maybe there should be some flexibility built into maybe the existing?
Absolutely.
The existing guideline that they have?
Absolutely.
Right, I think maybe maybe that might be the happy medium, is retaining our existing numbers.
That's right.
Putting in, building in some kind of flexibility there.
Yeah.
And maybe, even the ability to revisit it in another year or two.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to satisfy, though, what the council's going after, if they just, want optics,
Well, I think with
the city's listening and we're doing something proactively to encourage.
But I think with the city trying to revitalize the Artesia corridor is, I think what the city has proposed here is actually something that might work a little bit more cohesively with contractors or developers and make this more of a pleasant way, or a little bit more,
Less friction.
yeah, a little friendlier for, the developers that come in here and actually get a project in that they want that'll work for them as well.
Because if you keep the existing minimums, let's say the 14 or 30 feet, and there needs to be an exception made to 12 feet, for example, you guys are saying it's hard to make that exception.
Right now, we can't make that exception.
Can't make that
Which
exception
is
at all.
not included.
Right.
It's not that it's hard, it's just the case-by-case flexibility is not included, right?
not
Okay, so
existing
that's clarification.
Yeah, so if we
So if you included that,
included the verbiage.
right, correct.
There we go.
You're right. So what you're saying is right, I'm
Yeah.
saying.
So suggesting making a motion of the existing minimums, 14 feet for one-way, 30 feet for two-way, with administrative flexibility on the case-by-case basis per the city engineer based on the objective factors, such as what you've displayed: proposed number of spaces, safety, site distance, interface with public, ROW, proximity to other uses, vertical, horizontal slopes, proposed land uses.
Can we see what the staff recommendation is again?
We understand we want to make this like developer friendly, right?
Absolutely.
So if the developers see the existing requirements as is, they may not understand if we put in the verbiage that there is staff flexibility to be able to accommodate exceptions, et cetera. They may not know that. Will that deter them in any way? Will that be an influence in their decision-making when it comes to their projects?
Well, although this is, there's a lot of the standards for more development flexibility, developer flexibility. This is also very intentional from staff and the city to, again, getting back to that, minimizing conflicts between pedestrian and automobiles by minimizing the driveway width and maximizing the potential for the pedestrian-oriented street facing development. So this one is as much staff and city council and planning commission driven to maximize the pedestrian orientation and reduce the auto-oriented development standards. So and I think the development community, they like certainty, so they definitely want to see a requirement. And then they do like flexibility too. If they have needs, they make us well aware of those, and then we work with them. We bring in the city engineer and the public works department to see how that would then be accommodated if we could. So I don't know if I'm answering your question directly, but it's really about creating the
Streetscape design.
And taking those wide driveways off of the visual and narrowing those and creating more storefront, more business development. And you can do that with a narrow driveway. So we're going to this minimum more for the land use implications, and then also being specific with the development community, because again, they want to know what those requirements are, and if they don't work, they'll see that caveat and they can come in and we can start that dialogue.
Commissioner Simpson, did you have a comment?
No, I think this is an excellent proposal. I think that we should simply recommend that go forward as city council as they suggest. Didn't you make a motion to that effect?
I mean, it's stagnant. I mean, we've had a lot of discussion since then. There's a lot of,
Well, I'll second the motion that you made.
Well, I mean, can I pull the motion? I mean, I want to.
Yeah, of course. It was never seconded. So.
Yeah.
I was going to make a comment to Commissioner Sal. And sometimes I do active transportation for a living. So in some of these cases, when we have along driveways, it really precludes opportunities to do certain types of developments. In some cases, they've wanted to, for example, move bus stops from the near side to the far side of an intersection, for example. We don't have that space because of driveways or certain elements. That actually helps circulation in those cases. And it's little things like that that just provides more opportunity for doing better opportunities potentially for a bulb out in some other case. You could put in 2 trees instead of 1 in some cases or things like that. So unfortunately, we're not going to a specific site, so there's not one space or anything like that we can talk about, but those are kind of the general elements. The problem with the driveway is you have to keep the whole space clear. And so you can't perform any street elements. And in particular, where they're talking about on these corridors, these commercial corridors, that's where going to be some of the most attractive opportunities to put in benches, to put in landscaping, scenery, transit-oriented stops, things like that. So as somebody who has to deal with these standards all day, I'm always a fan of more flexibility as a general rule.
Makes sense,
Yeah.
Great comments.
Commissioner Anderson, with the flexibility, wouldn't we go with a 12-inch minimum instead of a 12-foot minimum instead of a 14-foot minimum?
Yeah.
And then on the max, just have it a little more flexible with the city as far as what they would approve or not?
Yeah, I would say the best opportunity is to give them the biggest berth to a certain degree. To the credit of the staff, they're trying to say we're within the standards of the other cities too, right? We're not rewriting anything else. We're not. So I think that there should be some comfort in the fact that they're not trying to make it extra challenging for large trucks, if this is what they're already doing in the city of Santa Monica or the city of Culver City or something like that. So, with that, and the devil's in the details, of course, but like we go back to these turn templates and usages and things like that, they can tighten it up. So they could say, no, look, in these cases, we have to do 14 or whatever that is. I think that it's just a good idea to allow or to provide the recommendations for the staff to when they look at these situations to say, hey, look, we can do this, that. The 30 minimum on the 2-way is kind of shocking because I can see how that can be really restrictive in a lot of cases. So with that, I would recommend to take the language that they currently have because I think it provides them a lot more flexibility. And maybe there's a path down the future where we really sit there and we talk about it. Because I do really believe in Commissioner Nafisi's comments about what is an exception. How does that really define itself? Because that is important.
What are Torrance's minimums?
Yeah.
It's not stated here.
Yeah.
Because we're comparing, it's good to benchmark cities, but we're benchmarking 2 really dense LA cities, Santa Monica, Culver City. We do not want Redondo
Maybe
Beach
Hermosa or
to
Manhattan,
be like
anything more similar to us.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair
Well, you see on the middle of the screen, it says 30.
And we don't want
It's
Redondo
30?
Beach.
Yeah, they've got 30 is the max. They don't have a minimum, right?
They don't have a minimum?
We did not find a minimum.
Yeah. So they have a max of 30, no minimum. So if I understood your comments correctly, Commissioner Anderson, you would suggest going with the proposed values to allow maximum flexibility from the developer side and have most options for other tangential improvements.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And when I say also too for the review staff in terms of how they could administer those driveways as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Because to the planning, to the comment you made too, it's as important on the private side of the right of way as it is to the public side of the right of way, what we're trying to take care of here.
Correct.
Was that just a comment or was that a motion?
It was not a motion.
Okay.
Is it, I mean, we've had two commissioners seeking, inquiring what our neighboring beach cities have. Is it possible to continue this to, next month with that information?
Yeah, we could do that, but.
Was this supposed to come back to council?
Definitely.
Do it?
I wouldn't benchmark Hermosa.
Because everything's tight in
Yeah.
Hermosa.
Okay.
But I don't see a reason why we should really hold this up, but if all they need to do is just change the verbiage a little bit, I think be more than happy to put a motion forward to adopt the city's staff's recommendations in order to continue with this
Beautification.
looking into what would be viable for the Artesia corridor.
So we have the Manhattan Beach one pulled up right now for a commercial use. If you're proposing 14 or fewer spaces, it's 12 feet.
12.
And it's, I think if it's 15 or more spaces, it's 12 foot for a one-way, 20 foot for a two-way. So this is actually
20.
pretty similar to what
So
we're proposing.
in line with your recommendations.
Should we, I will go ahead then and happy to make to revisit the motion I made to advance staff's recommendations.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Roll call.
Please.
Commissioner Simpson?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nafisi?
No.
Commissioner Bealy?
Aye.
Commissioner Sal?
Aye.
Chair Arruda?
I don't know.
You can also abstain, I think, too.
What was that?
You can abstain, I think, too.
I think I'll abstain from this one.
Motion passes 5-1-1.
Okay, let's move on. We didn't have anything from commissioner member items on future commission agenda topics. Commissioner Simpson? Commissioner Bajaj?
No.
Commissioner Anderson?
None.
Commissioner Nafisi?
I have nothing, but I do want to thank city staff for presenting or sharing the subcommittee information as requested for the last meeting. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yep. Commissioner Bealy?
Not at this time, but I do appreciate Ryan's presentation. Really nice work.
Thank you.
Really nice work. Commissioner Sal?
No, nothing at this time.
Right, move for adjournment.
Awesome. We are adjourning to which
The
day?
next meeting of the Redondo Beach Public Works Safety and Sustainability Commission will be a regular meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on January 26, 2026 in Redondo Beach Council Chambers, 415 Diamond Street, Redondo Beach, California.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.